Having not done a LinkedIn live for what felt like weeks, I'm like a bus, aren't I? Two come along at once. I did one yesterday with the wonderful Lisa, and today I'm going to be live with Stephen Lai. You're used to this if you've watched me before. I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes. I'm going to do a couple of things down here on the laptop to make everything work, but I'm going to give it a couple of minutes until I know that LinkedIn actually knows that I'm live. There we go. LinkedIn knows that I'm live now. If you're watching this, I'm going to ask you to do me a favour. Pop a comment in the comments below to let me know that you can see us. I'll get my words right before the end of it. Someone's given us a like, and a few more people have popped up now. So yeah, I just want to know that you're there before I bring Stephen on screen, which I'm going to do momentarily. And look. Hey Roland, it's good to see you. I hope you've not been too choked up by the Salisbury Plain fire over the last couple of days. We could smell it all the way over here in Whitney. But Roland, it's good to see you. Stella Morrissey, you're going to pop up as private user, I'm afraid, something to do with your LinkedIn settings, but it's good to know that you're there as well. And Ian, it's lovely to know that you're here. Let's do all of this, and we've got, hey, people have really taken this seriously today. Hassan, is good to see you. And who else have we got? We've got Annette and Joe, loud and clear here in Finland. So look, I'm going to be talking to Stephen Lai about how he uses video, because I use video a lot, but Stephen has truly shown me different ways of using video, particularly what I'm going to describe as sort of informal video, which I'll let Stephen describe a little bit later on. I'm going to bring Stephen on screen. I'm going to disappear right to the bottom of the screen because it's actually Stephen that's really important today. So, what is it? Yeah, good afternoon, Stephen, from me over here in Oxfordshire. Tell us, for the sake of the people who are listening, because I've introduced you and I've known you for whatever it is, 3 or 4 years now. Give the people who are listening and watching a little bit of an idea about who you are and what you do.
Well, hi there, Steph. Delighted to have another live stream with you. I could actually explain, but I thought what I might do was actually show, because this is more of an interactive live stream. So this is me in my office at the moment, and typically I would say, hi, I'm Stephen, I am, we do, it does. But by the power of the magic green screen, let's see if we can make it a little bit more engaging. Now, you've got to bear with me, because I have a lead that only stretches so long. So hopefully I'll be able to reach up for my green screen out, pulling out my headphones. Bear with me.
I've got a vision of everything falling over at this stage, but I don't think this is magical. This always excites me when I see this. We haven't broken everything.
And he's back.
And it's all working.
So if you imagine if that was an 80s tape, it would go something like this. It would be like, so Stephen, can you share a little bit about yourself with the audience? Not a problem. So I'll just work the magic. So hi everybody, I'm Stephen Lai. I'm the founder of the CRM Property Success Program. And in the past, I've been helping property investors to streamline and secure their deals much, much faster using a system. And these are all the wonderful things that we do for them. As I mentioned, in the past, I'm a corporate escapee, and I've been working with all of these amazing retailers. But somewhere along the way, I had a change of direction. And I guess people ask me, what do I do now? I'm a bit of a visual storyteller, because I think visual storytelling is really, really amazing. And that, I think I'm going to pause there without letting all of the magic out of the bottle.
It's just, see, I've seen this a lot, and it always amuses me and blows my mind. And if the audience can't tell, I've got the camera, which is over there. But if I'm doing this, it means I'm looking down at the screen, because actually, I really enjoy what you put on screen, and even though I'm quite used to talking to the camera, I actually want to look at it today and see what's going on. I'm going to let you describe some more of this in a minute and how it works. I'm just going to repeat that if people have just joined us, I'm talking to Stephen Lai. I'll bring his LinkedIn details up on screen several times during the course of this morning. But if you've got any questions about what Stephen's doing, how it works, why it's important, pop them in the comments below. We'll bring it up on screen. And I'm going to start with that because you're starting to show off all of this stuff and it's really impressive. Give us an idea of why this is important, why it works. And I've deliberately, to do you a favour today, I've sat with a completely white, boring background behind me. Just to show yeah, that's me, just to show the contrast. So yeah, tell us a little bit about why this is important.
Well, in the style of storytelling, it typically, when I read books to my little one, it all began. So it all began when during lockdown, I guess we were doing a lot more virtual meetings. And having been to quite a few Zoom meetings or these virtual meetings, what I found was that it kind of looked a bit like this. So there's me over here. Hello, everybody. And I'm watching whoever the presenter might be, and that might be you, Steph, or whoever's presenting on the screen. And what they're seeing is typically a big PowerPoint slide, or maybe the speaker. And you know what? Let's have a bit of fun. I'll fly down. Typically, the speaker might be here, or I might even be the speaker. But often what you find is that people present on a really big screen and they're tiny, teeny weeny. And the problem with that is that when you're watching or consuming the content, like you mentioned earlier on, Steph, you want to listen to the speaker, but if you've got stuff on the screen, it can be distracting. So did you read or did you watch the speaker? And if the speaker's really tiny, then chances are you're kind of narrating it. And I thought that didn't really work very well. And this whole, what I call head in the box. And so I thought I try and do a live test with you. So what I tend to find is that when you go to these virtual meetings, people used to say to me, okay, so Stephen, you've got 60 seconds to introduce yourself to the group, typically a group of strangers. And most people, when they start with the introductions, they start with, I am, we do, and it does. And I'm not sure about you, but if you, and this is where I make it a little bit more interactive, give you a pop quiz. So if you have been to a network meeting this week, could I ask you just to take a moment and reflect? And here's the question. In your last Zoom meeting, can you recall a compelling speaker? And just see if you can picture that just for a moment. Now, can you remember what they said during their 60 seconds? But more importantly, can you remember what they said after? Now, if you times that by however many people in the room, I would probably feel that most people would struggle. So that's one of the key challenges where when I was going to a lot of these online sessions, I was thinking there's got to be a better way of engaging. And I think the biggest problem is to do with this, what I call a head in a box. A head in a box kind of goes a bit like this. That's me. So if I was the presenter, and then these are all of the things that I'm going to share with you. And that's not ideal. So the first thing I would suggest is let's get out of the box. Because if you get out of the box, now normally I would not share content where you couldn't see that because there's just too much stuff on the screen. But the point I'm trying to illustrate is by being out of the box, you can engage with your content. You can fly around to the things that really matter. So for example, this part here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put myself back in the box. I'm sure there's a movie called Dirty Dancing where they say they don't put baby in the box, but I thought myself, I'll try and put myself back in the box. And there I am. Okay, so just moving on. What opportunities does this open up for you if you're able to engage with more engaging slides? So let's do a test. And this is where I call the 60-second intro. So I'll do it verbally first, and then I'll do it the way that I'm doing it now. So the 60 seconds might go something like this. Hi, I'm Stephen. I help experts, coaches, and trainers create short and snappy videos with no video experience whatsoever. The reason why I'm sharing this with you is because I am, for a better word, like a stand-up comedian on a stage, sharing with you and articulating my 60-second pitch to the best of my ability, which is great. Now, I'm going to contrast this to the way that I do it now. Hi, I'm Stephen. People ask me, what is it that you do? Well, you know how lead generation is really challenging. Look at this emoji here, he's slapping his head. Well, what I do is I make lead generation really, really easy. What I do is to help you expand your audience, spread your message, and be unique on camera using short and snappy videos, a bit like this one here. And the best news is there's no video experience required. We do this through a program called You Are a Video Star, because I do love the 80s. And it's designed for coaches, experts, and trainers, and actually anyone who needs to be engaging with their audience, typically online. And what I do is I help them create short, simple, and snappy videos that captivate and convert. Now, if that sounds of interest, you can find out a little bit more in 3 easy steps. Step 1, book a call with Stephen.com. There's the link there. Step 2, fill in the details. And step 3, let's have a call. And with that, I maybe challenge you to think out of the box. On the next presentation that you give, if you're going to be delivering a polished 60 seconds and you are doing everything right, but will your audience remember, engage with the message that you're looking to share? And if not, maybe this is something you might want to consider. And I'm going to bring myself back to here again and over to you, Steph. You might be on mute, Steph.
Stephen, you remember tomorrow's world, don't you? I'm hoping, I put myself on mute because I'm hoping that nobody noticed, because whilst you were doing that, we actually had something happen here. But because I was the tiny one in the bottom of the screen, I think I was able to deal with it in a couple of seconds without people noticing or hearing it, because that's why I muted my mic for a second. I've been to networking events with you. I've been to virtual networking events with people who I know you've trained as well. And like genuinely, and I am, everything that I talk about is the 60 seconds is important, but it's not the most important thing. But when you've worked with someone, everyone looks at them when they're on the screen. And I think we've gone from, when was it, March 2020, April 2020, when we all really started doing virtual networking meetings by Zoom, by Teams, and the other products that exist. And it sort of started with people with their phones in their laps, sort of looking down with the least flattering angle, looking up at them. I'm going to find it actually if I got that camera on here. Yeah, when we first started, I think everyone was doing networking meetings a little bit like this, really,
up
talking
the
nose, talking down their phones, up to the nose, badly lit. And then we got a bit better at it, and people got a camera at the right angle and maybe got some lights and that sort of thing. But then you just bring a completely different dimension to it, because for people to be actually noticed, because my interest is networking, for people to be actually noticed at networking events is really important. Cameras up, Kitty Lai says cameras up the noses. Let's, there we go. There's Kitty's comment there. Hello, Kitty. It's nice that you're watching us. Trudy, it's nice that you're watching us as well. Kitty also goes on to say wide chins as well. Yeah, that's what people were doing. And then I did some training right back at the beginning, reminding people to look at the camera, reminding people to maybe get some lighting. But you've just taken that a complete step forward. But then you've also expanded that to look at how people deal with inquiries, how people deal with booking inquiries, sales inquiries, that sort of thing. So, two things I'm going to say. One is, if anyone who's watching has got any questions about this, pop them in the comments below. We will bring your question up on screen, just as I am able to do with Kitty's comments there. And Stephen and I will try and answer it. If you want to know how this works for your business, why it's important, how Stephen's doing it, the wizard behind the curtain, that's the right expression. But how have you taken this forward sort of past networking events as well, Stephen? Because I know that you've been talking to me about that in the background.
Well, that's a great question. So I think rather than just throw lots of special effects, because that's fine and it's quite interesting, but I think it makes sense to actually take a little deep dive in terms of why you want to use visuals in the stories that you tell. Because if you think about this, we go back to the 60 seconds intro, it's all about storytelling. When someone intros themselves, they're telling you a story. So I'm going to maybe share some interesting facts, and I try and do this in an animated way, so I hope you'll find this useful. So a few things here just to note, because I'm going to give you all of the things that are going behind the background as well. When there's something new to teach, rather than just having a load of slides that remain the same, what we do is we use a pattern interrupt, a change in background, and it illustrates that we're going to be teaching or sharing something new. So if there were all slides with the same color, it would be what I would call a sentence. A sentence follows a sentence. A paragraph is when you know there's something new we're going to be teaching. And this is how I would normally share something new with you. And as I click this, you'll see my background changes. I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit about visual storytelling. And these are all of the things we're going to cover. What the heck is visual storytelling, and why does it actually matter? And I thought it'd be great to actually use some examples to do with kids, people, visual storytelling, and of course some of the magic. So as a child, we're often being told, don't tell those tall stories. Now, I would say, actually, you should tell lots of great stories, stories which are engaging, probably less of the tall stories. And why is that? Well, because we are wired for stories, and it's story time. So when people say, I love to tell you a story, you're automatically wired to receive that story, as opposed to, I'm going to tell you a sales pitch. That's the big difference. Okay. So what is visual storytelling? Well, it's combining visuals by sharing your unique message and adding that into the way that you tell your story. And by doing so, it's magic. I really like this one. I think this one absolutely nails it.
That one's amazing.
So if we know that visual storytelling is magic, but why is it magic? Why is it so compelling? Well, first of all, I think Albert here, he has a great phrase, which is one picture is worth 1,000 words. So utilizing imagery. It doesn't have to just be pictures. It could be illustrations. Now, here's some big brain facts. First of all, 90% of information that is transmitted to the brain is visual. Other amazing facts is that your brain is actively processing that visual imagery or that messaging that's coming through your head. More facts here, more facts there. But the one that I really wanted to concentrate was this one right up here. Your brain processes visuals 60,000 times faster, which means you can communicate 60,000 times faster if you include visuals in your presentations. Because no one likes a dull update. So at this point, again, I am going to pause here, and hopefully that's demonstrated a little bit about why you want to be using visuals in your presentation. Now, I'm just wondering, would it be useful to maybe share again an example of how people are using visuals in maybe dull updates? Would that be useful?
It would be really useful. What I'm going to do before that, I'm going to do a couple of things. When we when we go over to the next bit, I'm going to take myself off screen because I've noticed that my little box down here is covering up some of your text. So I'll pop you on full screen, but I want to concentrate on a couple of things that people have actually said down in the comments because Keith Grover said a camera looking down hides a multitude of chins. I'm going to steal that, Keith, and use that in future. You always bring something amusing to events like this. Stella's coming up as private user on here, which is just to do with some LinkedIn settings. But the wonderful Stella Morrissey. Do you know what, Stella? When you came on here today, I started thinking about this because Stella is a deaf person, Stephen, and what you're showing just makes these videos much more inclusive for people who don't have hearing, for people who are deaf, for people who need the visual prompts as well. So with everything else, with all of the other benefits of this, it makes it significantly more inclusive, significantly more user-friendly for people like Stella. And I started thinking that as soon as I saw you here this morning, Stella. Roland says that it's why YouTube is so successful in teaching people how to do things. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, Roland. My 18-year-old son, if he wants to know how to do something, he goes to YouTube first. He doesn't go out and buy a Haynes manual anymore. I know Roland's the right age to get that reference as well. Kitty prefers visuals rather than words, much easier to digest. Keith, I'm glad you stole the joke. I dread to think that you'd made that up yourself. And yeah, Stella says spot on, thank you, because that makes a ton of sense. Do you know what? Before we'd started doing this video, Stephen, and particularly before Stella came online, to my shame, I hadn't even thought about the inclusive part of this, but I think that's really important as well because these lives, for example, aren't subtitled, but what you're showing would be a way to pseudo subtitle even lives as well. I'm going to give Stephen the screen back completely so that you can see.
Before we go into that one, I just maybe just add on a little piece, and it's great that Stella's joining us today. One of the customers said to me the other day that I can never remember what the four are. There are four styles of learning. And if you're a person that needs to hear or you need to see or whatever the other two are, I apologize, I don't know what they are, then by teaching or presenting in a way that is suited for the way that you learn, you're going to ingest that information much more easy. And that's one of the things which I would say with coachable experts and coaches who are teaching that sort of stuff to be mindful, because if you think about how you're going to teach it, it is a load of text, ideal for your audience. And in this case, having visuals brings a different dimension to it. So it's a really good point that you raise.
Stella is watching us using live captioning available on her phone. So I'm really pleased you've got that available as well, Stella. But it's a really important point, and one I'm really glad that we've done this live because it's given me something else to think about with the opportunities with this. I'm going to take myself off screen completely. I'm still here. I can still hear you all if you're rude about me. But it gives Stephen the opportunity, because I know you've got a whole ton of stories to show us today how this works. So the floor is yours.
We do, Steph. And you know what? You're not going to get away that easy without me sharing our story and a little bit about your story just from a couple of weeks back. So should I maybe riff into the next little piece?
Absolutely do. Absolutely do. You're absolutely welcome.
So how do we remove these dull updates? Well, this is what I would typically call a dull email. First of all, I don't really like these emails because the first thing I would say to you, and be very open and transparent, I can't type for toffee. And I think there's an art to creating videos, but the fact is I'm just rubbish at writing. So my question to you would be is, I think it's actually not a bad email, but the thing is, how many emails like these do you actually receive? And this is what I would call typically how you would provide maybe an update. Now, what could be a halfway house? Now, I'm quite a big fan of using a piece of software called Loom. And Loom basically provides this for you. Your head in a box. And this is actually one of my customers, Mark. And before he started working with us, he used to provide a lot of weekly updates using PowerPoint. But I tend to find this is like death by PowerPoint. You're listening to him, you see things that are going on over here as well. But it really doesn't quite gel together. So I'd love to share with you Mark's story and how he's now using video to engage with his audience. And also to give you some context as well. So Mark is a very successful property developer. And ideally, he wants to work with joint venture partners who want to invest in what he does best. But of course, when you're talking property, it might mean a lot of money. And it would be unrealistic that someone after the first meeting is going to pull out a wodge of money and say, let's get started. It typically involves building know, like, and trust over a period of time. And this is how he used to do it using these PowerPoints. Let me share with you now how he's doing it. And now I'm in the car with Mark. How's it going, buddy? Now, at the beginning of this video, Mark would have been driving his car like this, but this is how he gives his weekly updates. And what he's doing is he's using an example of driving down to see a viewing. And when he gets to the viewing, he's going to check out the property layout. And in doing so, what he's actually sharing in his video is what is important for him as a property investor in terms of when you're meeting with people, how might you want to engage with him? So you could imagine that's a lot of things that you're trying to communicate, and a long email would just be endless. But this is a lot more fun. It's a lot more engaging. I mean, if we were going down at 90 miles an hour, my hair would be kind of flicked back. And this is how Mark does it now. And I would say, arguably, it's whoops, that was a little bit of him going to the cafe where after the viewing, that's how he works out his checklist. But this is Mark's style of doing things. Another pop quiz question for you. How many today emails have you received? And the next question is, how many video messages have you received? Now, I would imagine you probably haven't received many of those, but if there was a really personal video message designed specifically for you, I would imagine you would be quite happy that someone's taken the time out to be engaging with you in a much more personal way. Okay. And at this point, I'm going to stop again, and I'm going to basically bring Steph back into his before I maybe go into Steph's story. So Steph, please do come in. I'd love to maybe you fill in the background story of how we met, and then I'm going to maybe share with the audience something that happened a couple of weeks back and how we've been engaging using video, because I think it gives it a greater context. Over to you.
It's a really good space to come back in because I'm busy. I'm busy at the moment. You know that, and I was talking to someone about this last night, and I get in the order of 100, 120 emails, LinkedIn messages, WhatsApp messages, texts per day, mainly in the business, but some from my kids and that sort of thing as well. We met when I was speaking at a business show quite close to you, and we met, and you've always recounted this to me because the tech didn't work. I had turned up to someone else's show, I was speaking at their show, and the tech didn't work, my slides didn't work, they couldn't get their laptop and their projector working. And you've always said how you were impressed how I just managed to carry on. And we became friends at the time, and I met with you and Kitty and Chris all at the same time, and we got to know each other over a period. And we've kept in touch. And when was it? A couple of weeks ago, when we were planning this, you know how many messages I get, and also you knew that I was speaking for a relatively big client that week, and I was super stressed about it. So I didn't have time to read all of the emails. I had my out of office set up and everything like that, and I got a message. I'm just going to say hello to Roger Green, who's just popped up. Good to see you, Roger. Let's just pop. There you go. Roger Green has joined us as well.
Hey, Roger.
And Roland is saying hello to Roger. It's good to see everyone here. But you knew how busy I was, and you thought you wanted to get my attention, which is really important in business, to get people's attention, because we had stuff that we needed to discuss, and I'll let you go with the story from there.
Okay, so I hope, Steph, that you don't mind me naming some of the corporates, because you are amazing. And the other thing is, I didn't have time to go and scribble it out, so I hope I won't get you into any trouble.
You won't. Go for it.
Okay, so as always, this is Steph's story. So I'll paint the picture. Steph has signed up to work with me on our live group coaching. But unfortunately, and it's entirely my fault, we had a last minute invitation to go to attend a wedding in Barcelona, which meant all of Steph's timing was out of whack. And I knew he was under a lot of stress. I think he was actually speaking for 3-4 days out on the road. It's going to be difficult to be joining that, especially when the scheduled training has been moved. So this is how I engage with Steph. So I actually do it slightly different order. So Steph basically sent me this email, and Steph's really good at writing, much better than I am. But unfortunately, he can't make it. I'm just going to fly myself over here. Look, he can't make it because he's over in London with BT. And everything's a challenge. I can't make the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So basically, even if he comes and join us, he's only going to get, 20% of what he actually needs. So I was thinking, how should I respond back to Steph? And I think this is where often you need to walk a mile in someone else's shoes. So this is me walking a mile in Steph's shoes, where I'm thinking, you're probably stressed. So my video message to him went a bit like this. Hi, Steph. Look, I hope the BT sessions are really going well, but I appreciate you're probably under a load of pressure at the moment. Now, the thing is, it's really important that you don't feel left out. And I know you're a big friend of the 80s. So with that in mind, I created these slides just for you. Don't worry, because you forget about me, which is the Breakfast Club, because I want you to know it is not a problem. Let's catch up next week, because it's always about personal engagement, looking after your customers, walking a mile in their shoes, as opposed to trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. And I don't know for sure, but what I'll ask you in a second is, I'm hoping when you receive that message, instead of that of just yet another email, you had a big, big smile that thought, you know what, that's really cheered up my day. It's like a red letter day. So I'm hoping that was the case. And I'm going to again come out and like to ask you, what was it like for you?
Do you know what I said to Sharon at that moment? I said, look, I've just received this and it's amazing, and he's thought about me because the sessions had moved, and actually, through no fault of anyone's, I was going to be out that week, and it was like, wow, Stephen's been really thoughtful here. He's really thought about me, and have a look at this, have a look at the message he sent me. And that, I mean, that's lovely. You were dealing with a client. I'm a client of yours. You were dealing with a client, and it sort of got you and I thinking as well about why that might be important. Not dealing with existing customers, but dealing with potential customers as well. That's where I think it led our conversation after that.
That's right. And a few things maybe to pick up. Number one, I'm really blown away that you shared that with Sharon. So when was the last time? Pop quiz question. I can't bring that on the screen at the moment because I haven't planned for that. But actually, yes, of course I can. Pop quiz question. When was the last time someone sent you an email and you felt compelled to go and share it with your other half or a partner because it was just that good? Well, I think Steph said to me, well, he did that. But I think also to be mindful of what I actually did. I created a slide that says, hope everything's going well. I know you like the 80s, so this is something that you and I have a shared common interest. And what I wanted to get across is, look, I haven't forgot about you. And at this stage, you don't need to worry about anything because we'll just catch up next week. You just focus on what you need to do. And that was it. So if you think about that, if you were trying to put that across in an email, it's very difficult to put across personality. It's very difficult to put across your tonality, whether you're excited, brings a smile to your face. And I think this one really sort of sums it all up. You know, big smile, big smile, big smile. And I think that is where the beauty of video really comes in to make it really personal. So I hope that was useful.
Oh, I popped myself off screen by mistake. Then no, that was incredibly useful. It was useful at the time, and one of the things that you and I have talked about is that I sell myself for speaking gigs. That's how I make a fair amount of the money in this business. And when someone approaches me for a speaking gig, they're typically approaching 4 or 5 people. When I was an estate agent, when someone approached us to value their house, which was our sales opportunity, they also approached another free agents in town. And you then explained to me how I could use this sort of thing to help me stand out when I respond to a speaking inquiry, because usually when an inquiry comes in, the next step is just for me to tap out a response to them, and then you thought there could be a much better way of doing this.
Well, there was actually a conversation that took place, and I guess this is where friends, you're a coach, I'm a coach, but it's about really putting yourself in someone else's shoes and asking the right questions. And if I maybe ad lib, the conversation went a bit like this. So at the time, you were really struggling to figure out, well, it's all great doing all these short, snappy videos, but that doesn't really relate much to my life in terms of how it affects me. And I think not through not trying, you just couldn't see the context. So I asked a simple series of questions. So I said, who is it that you actually books you for your gigs? And I think you said something like, well, it could be the guy at BT around engagement, and effectively he's hiring me to deliver a message to his audience or his group or his department to hit home the things which are really important. I said, that's great. Where will he normally see you? Well, he have to see me at one of my speaking gigs. Okay, so he has to be in the audience in order to see you do your stuff. Okay, great. Jot that one down. And the next one question was, now, if he goes back to the office, does he normally phone you up, or who is it who actually engages with you? And you said, well, strangely enough, it's not him who normally reaches out, it's his assistant. I said, okay, do you know roughly how old his assistant is? Probably in their mid-20s, they're quite young. And I would then say, and how will they reach out to you? Do they send you an email and then you send an email back? Yeah, that's normally how it goes. And then we have telephone call. So I said, well, imagine this. There are 3 doppelgangers of you, and I'm one of them. I'm equally good in every single way that what you do. And when the email comes through, what you said you would do is you would normally send an email back in your very well-written style. But of course, it's hard to get across personality that way. And if she sends the same email to 3 people, the only thing that she's got to compare, because she may not have seen you in the audience, is the actual 3 email responses. Now, instead, imagine if you rocked up and you came up with a video and say, hi, it's Stefan here. Great that you reached out to me. And by the way, what I thought I would do, instead of sending you an email, is to send you something which is a little bit more fun, a little bit more interactive, because you can see how I actually present. And by the way, we are able to incorporate your corporate message into the presentation. But this is like a glimpse ahead of time before you see me doing it live. Now, if everything being equal, when everyone receives an email, do you think your video is going to stand head and shoulders above everybody else. And one of the phrases you have shared and taught me is, how do you separate yourself from your competition and let your messaging and your presence, and in this case, your short, snappy video, do the talking for you? I would probably imagine that when the assistant goes back to the decision maker, she might say, by the way, you've got to check this out, a bit like what you showed Sharon. And suddenly, if everything being equal and they've got well-composed emails, you've just separated yourself apart because you're using something which is short, snappy, engaging, compelling, and they can see how you're engaging on video, which is very difficult to do if you're just using words alone. So hopefully that was useful.
Let's just have a look who have we got on here. The very wonderful Ollie Burness. There you go, the Stephen Life fan club. I absolutely love Stephen's take on video editing. Absolute genius. Hey, Ollie's there. Stella's got to go, which is a real shame, but we've, as we always do, Stephen, we've been talking for a while now. But Stella says thank you for that. I've suggested that people connect with you, and whilst I was off screen just then, I've put the link to your LinkedIn profile in the comments as well. Anyone who's watching this who's not already connected with Stephen absolutely should. The other stuff that you've shown me, which I know we haven't got queued up and ready to go, but talking about my potential speaking gigs, you've shown me how I could literally be doing a video response to someone, and then because my show reel is on YouTube, I could bring my show reel up into the video with me as well and send that to them. You've shown me how I can bring relevance into my replies to people. Joe Griffin says this is very interesting. Thanks both. And the wonderful Roland has followed you as well, Stephen, which is brilliant news.
But give me a thumbs up, Roland.
You can do that as well, Roland. You can do the big hands. I like that. But I'm thinking here, I'm looking at who's watching us. So, Roger Green, who buys cars for people, a video response to people could be absolutely huge. Stella, who's got the amazing business Stella Garlands, again, a very, very visual business for whom this could be really, really beneficial. I just think it's a 2022 way of thinking about things. We are coming pretty much to the end of the time that we've got, but I can't remember from our rehearsals whether you had any more stories that you wanted to share, Stephen, or whether there was anything else that you wanted to say to the people who are watching this either here or on replay.
Well, with that in mind, there are always a few closing comments. I would actually go and share, I don't think I can put it up on screen in the time that we've got, so I won't ruin that surprise, but we basically create these things with really simple video. That was me giving my hands away. But one of the things I've actually shared typically in a webinar presentation is how an 8-year-old can actually do this. It's really simple. And I think one of the things you've mentioned about in 2022, how do we actually engage? Well, if I could be really honest with you, I've never been taught how to engage on virtual calls, Zoom calls. And I think many of us, there was a very steep level of learning during lockdown of how to be engaging on camera. Sometimes if you've got two screens, I've actually got quite a few screens, you might be reading the screen like this. And I think Keith was saying that it's really important that you engage with your audience by looking into camera. Just the best practices is about making sure that you're engaging with your customer like we are doing. We're having a great eye contact with them. But maybe a few things here, and then I'll finish off with a little bit of fun as well. So final thoughts. Shorter videos are great. Why? Because if you create shorter videos, it means the content you create gets published faster and just get it out of the door. That's why shorter is better than longer. Now, a short video can be anywhere from 60 seconds, where you saw my 60-second intro, anywhere to 5 minutes. The key to it is to be really, really engaging. And also it means you're able to extend your reach. you can use it on emails, which we've demonstrated. You can use it on presentations, which again we've demonstrated. In fact, if you have an online business and you can use it on your landing pages as well. Actually, is anywhere that you want people to get emotionally involved with you. And this is where I'm going to add on one of my special effects. Let's see if I can do that. Now, if you wanted to get in touch or know a little bit more about what I do, see if I can do this. There we go. And you want to find out a little bit more about me, then I invite you to book a call with Stephen.com, where you can find out a little bit more about the program. You are a video star. And of course, we talked about context. It would be really poor off of me if I didn't have one of these, which is a QR code, which means that if you have one of these to hand, you can now point at the screen, open up your camera app, and then it will take you to my page called book a call with Stephen.com. And then we can actually have a chat. And in this case here, I'll even use my telephone little special effect. Okay, that is pretty much it. I'm going to hand back to you. Those are all of the special effects for today. And over to you, Steph.
Let's put me back next to you. There you go. We're broadly the same size now. That's been brilliant. I've really enjoyed that. I am going to. I've put the. I've put a link to the book a call with Stephen.com. It expanded the link when I put it in here, but the link is there in the comments as well, so people can find that. If anyone watches this on replay, then if you've got any questions, do put them in the comments and I'll tag Stephen and make sure we come back and answer them. Or if you're interested in what Stephen's doing, book a call with Stephen.com. And I've just put that link as well in the comments too. Thanks for so much of your time this morning, Stephen. I enjoy doing these anyway, but I enjoy talking to you as well, and I've really enjoyed talking to you in front of some of my friends here. It's been good to see Roland and Stella and Roger and John Beeks here. Hello, John, all the way down in the southwest. And yeah, I strongly suggest that you folk connect with Stephen if you haven't already. Stephen is someone who I've got an enormous amount of time for, and yeah, connect with him and go and talk to him about how it's so simple to do this. Thank you for your time, Stephen. Thank you to
Steph,
everyone.
can I just leave one last point, if that's okay?
Of course, go ahead.
I am wanting to speak more on camera. And I think you've done a fantastic job in giving me the opportunity to live stream and actually do this with you together. I mean, it's been a lot of fun. If there are any expert coaches or specialists that are out there and you'd like to have maybe someone speak on your webinar, I'm all open to suggestions. Again, what I like to try and do is to bring short and snappy videos, which is super simple with no video experience required, to the wider audience. So do feel free to get in touch. And with that, I'm going to let you outro us, Steph.
Thank you. I will say thank you to everyone else. I'm going to push the button which stops this. It takes LinkedIn a few moments to stop it, so let's just take Stephen off screen. Thank you, Stephen. Go and connect with him if you're watching us. There you go. There's me back. Thank you all for spending some time with us this afternoon. I hope all of you in the UK are staying cool.